So it looks like Spotify has responded to RBX. RBX is an artist who is suing Spotify for turning a blind eye from artist botting streams. In this case, he uses Drake as a prime example of someone faking billions of streams to earn more revenue than others on the platform. RBX is requesting compensation because of this, and it looks like Music Alley had claimed that they got in a response from a spokesperson over there in Spotify. It says here that we cannot comment on pending litigation. However, Spotify in no way benefits from the industry-wide challenge of artificial streaming, said its spokesperson in a statement sent to Music Alley this afternoon. We heavily invest in always improving best-in-class systems to combat it and safeguard artist payouts with strong protections like removing fake streams, withholding royalties, and charging penalties. Our systems are working. In a case from last year, one bad actor was indicted for stealing $10 million from streaming services, only $60,000 of which came from Spotify, proving how effective we are at limiting the impact of artificial streaming on our platform. Now, the spokesperson they claim that they talked to is using this case regarding someone stealing from Spotify and other platforms. The bad actor I could assume that they're talking about is Michael Smith. Michael Smith is a North Carolina man that was generating AI music to earn revenue from streaming platforms. It says here in the scheme, federal authorities are labeling brazen fraud. A North Carolina man allegedly used artificial intelligence to create hundreds of thousands of songs, then continuously streamed them using bot accounts to generate unlawful royalty payments, totaling more than $10 million. Michael Smith, who is 52 years old and a musician himself, was arrested on Wednesday, according to the United States Attorney Office, and charged with 3 crimes. Law enforcement officials called this case the first of its kind involving artificially inflated music streaming. Now, remember that. So Michael Smith is the person that this spokesperson allegedly is talking about. Now, it's clear that the spokesperson for Spotify is trying to use this scenario as a way to explain that when something like this happens, they detect it and report it. However, after reading the article, it says that this story is one of the first of its kind. So it makes me think, how often are they detecting this type of stuff? Why isn't there more stories about stuff like this happening? How come we're not hearing more situations like this occur and being reported on? How come they use this as the prime example to compare to Drake? These situations are totally different. When we think about this story, it's different from the example that RBX is giving us in his lawsuit. RBX is using Drake as an example. Yes, Michael Smith was accused for similar things like botting to earn revenue, but there's a big difference between him and Drake. Drake is a globally famous artist. He has existing fan base and millions of monthly listeners. Now, millions and billions is up to you to decide. That's why we're here today. But the point is, Michael Smith got caught because he isn't a famous celebrity. He isn't signed to a label from what I've seen. He don't even got a small fan base. So it's obvious what he was doing was fraudulent. It's easier to put the blame on somebody who is not a successful rapper, who isn't somebody that everybody knows. Let's detect and report this guy because it doesn't affect us, allegedly. But then it makes you think, right? If this random musician knew how to bot millions, billions of streams, they were saying he was botting billions. What are the other people like Drake that are being accused of the same thing? What are they capable of doing? What are they aware of regarding this stuff? We all know in Drake's defamation case against UMG, he was aware of botting and he tried to blame Kendrick Lamar of botting. So he knows that botting exists and that it's something that artists do to inflate the streams. And before his defamation case was dismissed, he also tried to go against UMG and Spotify in a separate case revolving around botting. It says here that musician Drake alleges that Universal Music Group conspired to artificially boost Kendrick's searing diss track Not Like Us on Spotify, according to a pre-action petition submitted to a New York court on Monday. However, it was later reported that Drake had withdrew his legal action against UMG and Spotify. It's all about the purpose of the pre-action petition in the first place. Drake's legal team filed a pre-action discovery petition on SDNY in late 2024. That's the Southern District of New York. The goal was to obtain documents and testimony from Spotify and UMG before filing a full lawsuit, mainly to support claims about alleged unfair playlisting or stream manipulation, potential algorithmic favoritism, or suppression of his diss tracks. But the reason why Drake decided to withdraw it is because he was having negotiations with Spotify behind the scenes. Drake was speaking behind the scenes with Spotify and UMG, and I believe it was to get a better understanding of the situation. We don't know what conversation that they had. We don't know what was said. Pulling the petition may have been a part of a tactical way to resolve some issues quietly without escalating things immediately to a public legal battle. But what could have been said between Drake, Spotify, and UMG? Why didn't Drake continue to take action against Spotify? A pre-action petition would have forced Spotify to produce internal documents, some of which could have been sensitive or damaging to Drake's leverage in future negotiations. And we got to think about it, right? If they went through with this discovery, this pre-action discovery, it exposes evidence. Filing a pre-action petition in court forces the party, which is Spotify, to respond and produce relevant internal documents, reports, and communications. But courts also allow reciprocal discovery, meaning Drake could be compelled to hand over emails, texts, or internal notes from his label or management, prove detailed data or streaming performance or promotion strategies, explain any unusual spikes in streams or playlist placements. Even innocent or subtle activity could be interpreted as suspicious if it looks like manipulation. And this is why if Drake continued to move further, it would have incriminated him also. If Drake's team or label had ever used tactics that touched the line of algorithmic manipulation, Spotify's internal data could reveal it. Some examples would be coordinating fans or accounts or bots to stream tracks repeatedly, exploiting playlist mechanisms to boost plays artificially, uploading alternate version or test tracks to gain metrics. Even if these were minor or common promotional strategies, legal scrutiny could make them look like intentional botting or manipulation. It would have exposed Drake. Drake would have shot himself in the foot if he decided to continue his allegations towards Spotify and UMG. This is why he only focused on his defamation case and dropped the botting allegations altogether. It would have revealed something that he knew about or possibly allegedly could have been responsible for himself. He could have been responsible for botting, just like RBX is saying. And if he continued with his lawsuit against Spotify, it would have revealed that. The spokesperson over there that they accused of talking to is saying that when we see problems, we detect them, we report them. Look at this guy. He tried to get us. He tried to pull one over on us and we reported him. Yeah, but he's not a famous celebrity that could possibly manipulate the system, that has people in the know that talk to you when y'all are going to get in the court together, pull you to the side, have a private conversation, and we never hear about the lawsuit that y'all were about to get into. We never hear about y'all again. Ain't that funny? Either Spotify knew that Drake was doing something, allegedly, or they're saying that the systems that they use to detect people like Michael Smith aren't as good as they're saying they are. Either their system is whack or they're really aware of what Drake's doing. That's what it comes down to. I don't think that Michael Smith is a good comparison when we talk about Drake. Drake is a successful artist that has people in the industry that work for him, people that he's been connected with for years. He's established a relationship with UMG and Spotify. They all connect together. So when you just get a random person who's just doing something fraudulently and obviously, this is a completely different scenario when we talk about RBX mentioning Drake as an example. Again, Drake tried to go at Kendrick Lamar in regards to Not Like Us over Spotify, messing with the numbers, but then he backed away. I felt like he was going to expose himself, and I feel like this is where RBX starts coming into play. I think that RBX used Drake as a prime example because he exposed a lot while going to court over Not Like Us, over UMG. There is a lot of things that Drake exposed himself to because of this case. And people like RBX are just using him as an example because he's responsible for people like RBX to look into his history. But this response is strange. It's weird how they would compare a nobody who's not famous, doesn't even have a fan base, that was doing obvious fraudulent activity compared to Drake and what he's being accused of. And Drake's acknowledgement and knowledge of botting seems suspicious now, especially after withdrawing his situation in court with Spotify when he did his pre-petition. Seems like he backed up right on time, or they had a conversation right on time before things got messier. And again, back when we did this video about Spotify and Drake, I think this is why he put his focus on the defamation, because he couldn't prove that Kendrick was botting, but at the same time, it would have exposed him for botting. And now we're going back full circle with RBX and his lawsuit, and he's pointing back at Drake again. So we'll see how this goes. Again, Music Alley is claiming that they spoke to a spokesperson over there at Spotify, so take it with a grain of salt. Just thought that I'd bring this to y'all's attention because of the story that we just covered yesterday. Y'all can tell me how you feel about this and get back to me, man. And a big shout out to everybody that's been showing love to the channel. Appreciate everybody that's tapped in. Make sure you have your notifications on. Love everybody that's out here. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video, man. Peace. Keep it a legend.